Ready.
Mm.
Hi. Good afternoon. Hello. Yes. We should have a beautiful viewers. Yes. Um. Right now, I'll have one. Um. So, um. By our first, our so um, guys, to uh, spirit. Um. Let me know to our first speaker, which is the host. Um. Wanted me to introduce just uh. uh, So I think um uh having the mic to serve uh, uh so uh so
Hello, Brother Morpus, also known as what's this? JD Boler. Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, people of the world, and of course, specifically the department for this bloody project. I would say, no. um, uh, First of all, I would like to thank the department chair for coming up with this, program, this series, so that, as you stated, can provide our people a sense of a sense of the sense of what's happening in the country and the world, and also to show to the people that those bloody philosophers, so-called, have a duty and an obligation to society. So, as you can see, we are in a lockdown um, since March the 12th, isn't it? And it was further extended up to the 15th of May. But still, we're doing our share to educate the people on how to view the things that's happening in our society in the world. Now, my paper for this afternoon, which is the initial pilot session, is Kant on the right to revolution. But before I formally begin with my presentation, um, again, I would like to commend the department for coming up with this program, and also all those colleagues from the department. I also would like to thank our Dean, Cyril, for the support, and specifically you, because you are the, how will I say, the hacker, no? Because we don't, I'm an old man. I don't know about these things, and I'm only used to talk to people. Now I'm talking to a screen, and I don't know how the blood screen feels, or if there are some people who's listening. And in a specific sense, I would like to shout out daw, no, kay Archie, kay Ja, at syempre kay Mike, who's your daddy? Okay, so that's it though. And of course, the rest of the member of the department. As I stated, the title of my paper will be Kant on the Right to Revolution. If you remember, I would like to call your attention. Remember, last February, we have our philosophical colloquium. My paper for today is the part 2 of the paper that I've given on that month. If you're there, I presented the paper Kant dealing with evil, our right to lie. So this evening, this afternoon, by way of reiteration, I'm going to present this, controversial paper, Kant on the right to revolution. So we go now to the, what do you call that, to the second slides. Okay, so first, we begin with three quotations. One is by Henry David Thoreau on civil disobedience, and let me quote, "There will never be a really free and enlightened state until the state comes to recognize the individual as a higher and independent power, from which all its power and authority are derived." You will see that this principle is enshrined in the American Constitution. See that the power of the government lies in the hands of the people. And the same principle is enshrined in our Constitution, which is practically a photocopy of the American Constitution with some modification. If you will check Article 2, Section 1, it is written there, the Philippines is a democratic and republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authority emanates from them. So that's the political, moral, and legal basis of the people power, or in Greek we call that as what? Demos kratos, people power. While the second quotation is from Professor Isaiah Berlin in his book Two Concepts of Liberty, wherein he stated, and I quote, "Kant held all values are made of the free acts of men, and called values only so far as they are this. There is no value higher than the individual." I would like to stress the last point. There is no value higher than the individual. So the state, as happening now, remember those bloody pronouncements, shoot to kill, follow the law and all that. That is wrong. Because how could you kill those people who is the source of a higher right, and the right of those powers that be emanates merely from those people that they are shooting on the streets? Remember this case of this soldier who were killed, the soldier, the veteran of the Marawi siege, he was killed by the police. So that's already a violation of our individual rights. And then finally, the most one of my favorite quotation of all time is from Martin Luther King. You all know that he is a Afro-American civil rights leader during the 60s. He also died by assassination. He stated, and I quote, "One has a moral responsibility to defy unjust law." Now, why the hell I'm quoting all these quotations? Because they will be the foundation of my lecture on Kant. And you may ask, "Oh, sir, why are you quoting these philosophers who belong to 18th, 19th, and even 20th century in reference to a philosopher who lived in the 18th century?" The answer there is that there is the continuity of thought, my friend. And what is that continuity of thought? That there is no higher value except the value of the human being, dignity, human rights, autonomy. These are vital principles. So on slides number 4, I would like to quote one of the first authorities on Professor Kant, and that is no other than Professor Seigberg, Reiss. And this is what he stated. Kant is an ardent supporter of the American and the French Revolution, for he asserted the independence of the individual in the face of authority, and put the problem of human freedom at the core of his philosophy. Let me repeat that. He put the problem of human freedom at the core of his philosophy. Yet, having said that, even if he is the philosophical champion of the ideas of 1776 and 1789, 1776 refers to the American Revolution, isn't it? Well, 13 years later, It will be followed by the French Revolution. He supported the two events, yet he is guilty of curious discrepancy. What is this discrepancy? Or to some commentators of Kant, contradiction, irony, say. So on, they call that slide number 5, I stated there, what the hell is that, no? How could the man who wholeheartedly supported the French Revolution, even up to its bloodiest period, that is the reign of terror, remember, condemn all kinds of revolutions in his writing? So you see immediately the problem. In his action in life, he supported the revolution. But in his writings, he's like saying to us that we have no right to rebel. According to, this is the second authority on Professor Kant, and that is Professor Louis Beck. And this is what is stated. It is easy to suppose that Kant could asserted the right of resistance to a tyrannical government which denies autonomy to the legislation of the citizens. So this is shocking, right? Right? Kant is the champion of human freedom, human dignity, human autonomy. But on the second slides, he will highlight there those contradicting, controversial writings of his. Work 1, in his metaphysical principle of justice. Let me quote. This is what is stated. There is no right of sedition, much less a right of revolution, and concludes that it is the people's duty to endure even the most intolerable abuse of supreme authority. Imagine that. That is the same man who states that we have to develop our autonomy. But he's also saying that we have to endure a tyrannical government. So, if we will relate that to what's happening now to the Philippines, is Kant saying that we have to tolerate the EJK and the so-called enhanced community quarantine and all that? That's the question there. And then on his second work, which is on the common saying, this may be true in theory, but it does not apply in practice. This is what is stated. All resistance against the supreme legislative power, all incitement of the subject to violent expressions of discontent or defiance, which breaks out into rebellion, is the greatest and the punishable crime in the Commonwealth, for it destroys its very foundation. That's his view. So here, I would like to reiterate again and again the point. How could you defend the American and the French Revolution, and at the same time, you're saying we have no right to rebel and we have no right to sedition? So the man, it seems, is engaged in a contradiction, isn't it? We go now to the 8th slide. Here, I would state that Kant is a violator of his own categorical imperative. By way of review, we have to go back on February. Remember during my lecture 2 months ago, what did I do? What I did is that I inverted the categorical imperative. So instead of law 1, I made it into law 3. Law 2 remains as law 2. And then law 3 becomes law 1. What do I mean? Here is that patented traditional formulation of the categorical imperative. This formulation, C1, CI1, universalize your maxim. That is the universal law. And then number 2, treat persons as ends, or the law on humanity. And then on categorical imperative 3, autonomy or legislative membership of the kingdom of ends. What the hell did I do? What I did is that I inverted the rules. So now, the categorical imperative in my thesis is that is the original law number 1. So the law number 3 on Kant is my law number 1. Autonomy is more important than the universalization. Because what the hell are you going to universalize if the people are not yet master of themselves, isn't it? And then law 2 we will maintain, and then law 1 will be law number 3. So the pattern is this. First, you must be autonomous. Second, you must treat your persons as ends. And then number 3, that will be your universal law. And in my view, Kant is violating that. Why? Because if he truly believes and values the autonomy, the rationality, and freedom of the people, then why the hell on earth is preaching a contradicting philosophy that is based on quietism, but also on apathy and resignation? Why resignation? What he's saying is we just have to tolerate the abuses of the government. We just to endure them. So in psychology, this is what we call as what? Masochism? Or what? Escapism? Now, this masochism and escapism, in my view, is a contradiction whether on his formulation or my formulation. It will violate the law on humanity. It will violate the law on what? On autonomy, most importantly. Further, his counsel for patience is not only defeatist, but utterly misplaced. Why? Let's connect Kant with what is happening now in our country and in the world. People are already dying. If we will follow him, so what are we going to do? We'll just have to stay in the house. And even if the government is propagating lies, propaganda, and all this fake news, we have no right to call their attention either by Facebook or by letter to the editor to tell them that, hello, that is wrong. Of course, if we do that, we will be charged by, inciting to sedition and all that. No? Because the powers that be in the country is using the law, weaponizing the law to silence dissent. But that's the price that we have to pay if we truly loves our freedom and our autonomy. Isn't it? So we go now to number 9. What is the problem on Kant? The problem with Kant is that on his inconsistency and contradiction is that his static conception of natural law and his denial of the conflict between duties. In his static conception of natural law, he maintained that we as children of the state has no right to rebel against the state, which it's our father or mother. But the problem with that is that culture, morality, philosophy, politics are not static. They are all what? Dynamic. The law of life is what? Progression, development. We don't simply stay in one place. The rule and the rule of life is what? As I stated, progression. So that's the problem with him. Second, on the issue of the conflict between duties. Remember that we have to go back on my lecture on February. What is this conflict between duties? What is more important? To lie or not to lie? Let's go back to the discussion on the door. This time, let's go to another period in world history, World War II. Let's say Anne Frank is hiding at the attic, and here comes the German soldier, the Nazis, knocking at the door. And they will ask you, oh, is Anne Frank here? Or what's the right thing to do? To Kant, you have no right to lie, but he allows, witty evasion. So instead of saying, hey, is Anne Frank here? It's not here. It's somewhere there. Or I saw her 3 months ago. Something like that. But the problem there is why we're trying to be witty. Why can't we not simply say that I don't know, or pack up, or get lost. You know what I mean? So that's the problem with Kant there. So my rule is, if you will invert the rule, the categorical imperative, it will give you the exception to the rule to lie on the ground of your dealing with evil. So following that, in relation to what's happening now to the world, let's say in the US, it is my view, following Kant, inverted the categorical imperative, the Americans have the right to revolt against Donald Trump. Remember the pronouncement of this bastard, yesterday? Those suffering from COVID-19 should be injected by disinfectant. My goodness. and and in relation to the counterpart of that freak, our old freak, Mang Kanor, you know, he's saying we have money, and then the following day there is no money, and then on the third day he will say we're still about to collect the money. So you don't know whether there is money or there is no money, or we're going to collect the money. But at the end of the day, people have not yet received the compensation or the donation or the, what's do you call that, social amelioration that they were promised to receive. And that is the duty of the government to help the people in these most pressing and dangerous times, isn't it? So that's the thing there. Now, we go now to number 10, and that is self-constitution as the basis of the categorical imperative. Let me check for some any comment. Okay. On slide number 9, I put there this self-constitution as the basis of the categorical imperative. I stated there, I am the law unto myself, principles, commands, and laws that I arrive at, imposed and legislated unto and for myself based on reason. This is not an individualistic view. Why? Because it is governed by reason, and reason is accessible to all human beings. Why the hell should I follow an unjust law? That's the point there. So here, Kant himself is saying, following the categorical imperative on the law on autonomy, that we have the right to defy laws. But again, you will state, sir, he wrote in his two writings that we have no right to rebel. You know, we have to put into consideration the specific circumstances Papa Kant is in. He's a child of his times, and he's also a victim of the circumstances that is beyond his control. Imagine some colleagues of ours who wants to criticize the department or the chair, but the problem is, if he will do that, he will not receive a faculty load, promotion, and all that. So there is a sense of politics there also. Maybe he wants to save his ass or guard his neck or something. That's why his writings contradicting. Because if we will go back again to the categorical imperative, stated there, to think for yourselves. If you will truly think for yourselves, reason will tell you that Digong is a son of a bitch. Definitely. There is no way reason will not tell you that. That's the distinction between those people who truly think and the DDS, the trolls, zombies, who merely listen to what is the script. Oh, they will say, oh, what's the script for today? Like that. That's the thing there. While the second part, the state has no right to trump or traduce my right as an individual and as a citizen. Because what is the duty of a rational citizen? If the government is doing good, you will applaud the government, correct? Good, bravo. But if the government is violating the rights of the people, raping the Constitution, using the law as a weapon to silence dissent in the free market of ideas, it is the duty of the citizen, following Kant, based on the law on autonomy and on reason, to criticize that government. Now, if I will go to jail, then so be it. Well, in fairness to Kant, there is also an experience in his life wherein he has a brush with the law. Remember, he wrote a famous essay, Religion Within the Limits of Reason Alone. So here comes the royal censor, sending him a letter. Mr. Professor Kant, the king is displeased with what you wrote about religion. You have to remember, people, during those times, you will never become a professor without the concurrence of the monarch. So it is not the board of regents, it is not the university president, but the king himself. So he will have a problem if he will lose his job. Of course, he will, he will die. He will have some economic problem. So what he did is he replied in a measured word. Of course, he knows that one day that bloody king will die. He stated there, Your Excellency, I promise, as a loyal subject, I will never write again any writings about religion. True enough, a couple of years later, the king died. After that, Kant again wrote about religion. So what is the point there? Sometimes, those power players, the pullers of the strings, and all these forces. In Filipino, we call this as kapit sa patalim also. We are desperate, we're packed up in the middle, and but still I believe he did the right thing on that situation. Of course, it's judgment call. Somebody, if you're that professor, what are you going to do? You cannot look up to the sky and ask, Papa Kant, help me. Maybe Kant will shout, idiot. You think for yourself. What's the right thing to do, We confront the situation by ourselves. You cannot go to the library and pick a book and check, what's the right thing to do, We have to deliberate within ourselves. Governed by reason, of course. Okay, we'll go now to slides number 11, and this is the other part of the lecture, because the complete title of the lecture is that Kant's doctrine of right and the right of the people to revolution. What is this doctrine of right? That is his doctrine on the state or the government. So my view there is that to obey the government of the state, even if it's tyrannical, is stupid, and it violates the law on autonomy and the laws on humanity. So his doctrine of right is not right. Why? It is answered by our second slide. We are the sources of all values, rights, and power. We are the sources. Go back again to the quotation of Professor Isaiah Berlin. There is no Professor Isaiah Berlin quoting Kant's philosophy. There is no higher value than the dignity, humanity of a single human being. We are the sources of all values, rights, and power. Why? There can be people without the Constitution, but there can never be a Constitution without the people. See, we go back again to that principle of the Demos Kratos. See? We are the sources. Go back again to the quotation of Professor Isaiah Berlin. There is no Professor Isaiah Berlin. And the second corollary principle there is that this is accepted in a political law, constitutional law, administrative law, and even in a commercial law, in corporation law, the water cannot go higher than the source. And who is the source? We are. Pa ba? Hello? Oo, naka-on ba tayo? Parang nawala eh. Okay na? Sige. Sige. So, balik tayo doon sa karoon po tayo ng content technical issues. Kasi nasabutain na tayo ng ISAP o ng NBI. Anyway, tuloy po tayo. Oh, are we still live? Yo! Oh, very good. Okay, it was a break, no? Anyway, so the moral right to revolution is embedded in Kantian philosophy. Let me reiterate again, no? Kant is a follower, ardent follower of the American and the French Revolution, isn't it? But the problem is, he has two writings specifically saying that we have no right to rebel. We have no right to sedition. We have no right to revolution. That's explicit, express provision. So you see, that's the contradiction. But here's another issue. In some of his other writings also, he is saying there, hinting, explicit. Explicit. He is saying that we have the right to revolt. So you see, now, if you will read it, you may ask, what the hell is going on? Do we have a right or do we not have the right? Okay. I would like to call the attention of the people of the world to that work of his. An old question raised again. Is the human race constantly progressing? That is his analysis of the French Revolution, which he calls as a world historical event. Yeah. You will note there that provision wherein he stated the moral disposition in the human race. What the hell does it mean by the moral disposition in the human race? You will note there that provision wherein he stated the moral disposition in the human. Let's go back during the bloodiest period of the French Revolution. You know what Kant is doing then? What he'll do is that his way is reading all the newspaper articles coming from Paris. When the paper didn't come, he went directly to the office of the paper and talked to the editor and asked, hey, what's the latest news in Paris? That's what he said. And you know that Papa Kant is a party animal. He's a well-known professor in Königsberg. And some of those people in the party are nobles and, royals. But there in the debate, he will defend the Jacobin. That's why he was called with the banging of the table some more. That's why he was tagged Old Jacobin. It's a good thing that he didn't end up in jail or he was not put to death. To me, he was saved by his being a celebrity and by his age. Yeah, in my view. But he defended, no? Supported. My thesis is that it's a controversial thesis and it's up to you, no? But my view is that Kant is a revolutionary, albeit reluctant one. Besides his support for the American and the French Revolution, he's also, an ardent supporter of the struggle of the Irish people. By the way, people, yesterday is the anniversary of the Irish Easter Rising, 1916. So, what? April 24, 1916. Okay, another controversy that I would like to highlight, this is a philosophical historiography. There are those unpublished notebooks of Papa Kant. In one unpublished notebook, he defended the glorious revolution of 1688 in England. So, it's not only the American, it's not only the French, it's not only the Irish that he defended and supported, but also the English people during the Glorious Revolution. So what does it tell us? What will be the determinative reading here? Is it the published works, the unpublished works, or the things that he do in his life? That's the thing there. So mabaliw po kayo, no? I mean, yun yung ano doon. Yeah, that's the thing. Hindi pa yan napapublish, no? Okay, I will somehow defend him also. Why our philosopher is like that? Para bang urong sulong, ano? That's why, what's the word? Reluctant. As I stated earlier, and I would like to reiterate, Papa Kant is a child of his time. Remember, he was born in Prussia. Prussia under Frederick the Great. And Prussia at that period in world history in Europe is the most militarized country or nation in the world then. So you have to somehow remember also Kant. So if you're a radical, let's say, today, I remember I tried to apply a Catholic school there in Katipunan. I will not name the bloody school, no? You know what they asked me in the interview? I thought already I have the job. And then one question, it destroys all bloody dreams. They asked me, as an atheist, how will you put your place here in a Catholic institution? So I stated, if you don't like me, I don't like you also. And that's the end of it. I don't know how Kant will reply. But me, you know, in your face. Okay, I would like to quote another authority on Kant, who is substantially similar reading with regard to my reading, and that is Professor David Kominsky. This is what is stated. There are circumstances which requires a Kantian to be a revolutionary, whether Kant likes it or not. This is indeed the conclusions which actually follows from his arguments. What arguments? The categorical imperative. Individual judgment must sometimes override organized power. What's that? People power again. The Kantian principle is the ground under, but should not be buried under the principle of political obedience. Once in a while, we have to disobey Mama and Papa. That's the law of life. Okay, and finally, I will would like to quote, to me, the super authority when it comes to Kantian philosophy, and that is no other than Professor Christine Korsgaard of Harvard University. From her bloody, superb, earth-shaking article, Kant on the Right to Revolution. This is what our good professor stated. The moment of revolution is a vindication of morality and so of our humanity. We are masters of our own self-mastery, in control of our self-control. Being human is not sapping our strength, for we still know when to fight. The revolutionary does not become strong and free when he picks his gun. Instead, he proves to us that he's been free all along. It is because the laws of morality are his own laws that he is finally prepared to fight for them. The doubt created by the antimony is dispelled. Revolution teaches us nothing but what we have known all along, that the good and the free person are one and the same. Ngayon po, dahil sa patapos na rin naman ako mga kababayan at nais ko itong ikonteksto sa ating kultura at kalinangan at baka nakikinig si Doc Su Salazar, no? Hayaan po salin nyo ako na isalin ko to ang huling sipi sa ating wika. Kasi baka birahin ako mamaya, Inglesero ka, ganun-ganun. What can I do? FB Live eh. So, baka nakikinig din yung mga tropa ko sa Malaysia, Germany and all that. What can I do? FB Live eh. So, baka nakikinig din yung mga tropa ko sa Malaysia. Ito po ang huling salin ng city. Ang pagsiklab ng himagsikan ay pamamayani ng ating moralidad, gayon din ang ating buong pagkatao. Tayo ang Panginoon ng ating sariling pamamanginoon. Tayo ang may kontrol at kapangyarihan ng ating sariling kagustuhan o layon. Hindi mawawala ang ating lakas gawa ng ating pagiging mga tao, sapagkat batid natin kung ilan tayo dapat lumaban at mag-aklas. Ang revolusyonaryo o manghimagsik ay hindi nagiging malakas at malaya sa tuwing tatanganan niya ang kanyang sandata. Sa halip ay pinapatunayan niya sa ating lahat na siya ay malaya na noon pa. Ito ay sapagkat ang batas ng moralidad ay kanyang sariling batas at siya ay handang makihamok at makibaka para sa kanila. Ang agam-agam at pangambang likha ng antimonya ay wasak na. Walang itinuturo sa atin ang revolusyon o ang himagsikan manapa, kundi ang bagay na matagal na nating batid. At ito ay ang katotohanan na ang mabuti, marangal at malayang tao ay di labagat iisa. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Magandang hapon. Yabadua to the max. Mass promotion. May pag-asa, no? Ibagsak ang pentinilismo. May question ba?
Okay. So, rinig na ako, sir.
Oo, narinig kita. May sasagot ba tayo ng isa o dalawa bago tayo? Wala lang inabot natin, bro. May nagtsaga ba? Narinig kita. May nagtsaga ba, bro?
Hello. So, maraming salamat, sir, sa sa lecture online na pinresent nyo. So, since kayo yung pinakaunang sinalin or kayo yung pilot dito sa online lecture series natin. Pasensya na po sa mga technical issues kanina. And mabuti na lang nag-backup kagad yung system at nag-resume yung broadcast. So, ngayon, sir, siguro mag-entertain tayo ng question hanggang until 5 naman tayo no?
Hindi, wala ka namang ginagawa eh. Kung ano din.
Sa bagay.
makabawi tayo, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And
tumawag ka.
maraming mga question din dito. Sir, marami pala nagre-request din. Ayun, okay.
Na
Yung,
ano?
yung Facebook mo raw nag-feedback.
Ay, gano'n. O sige, okay na. Ulitin natin.
Okay. May questions po tayo from Sir Ramer Chanela. Sir,
Yeah.
inherent or is it a natural right or is it a privilege ang maghimagsik?
Inherent and natural right. Kasi reason is natural to all, accessible to all. So if you will think for yourself, reason will tell you that it's right to resist. Yun yung kaibahan, no? Yung privilege kasi, somebody gave you a sandwich and then nagkasamaan kayo ng loob, binawi. Mere privilege lang yan. Pero you were born with your freedom. And if somebody will take away your freedom, then you have the right to resist that bastard who is taking away your freedom. Because that's your natural, inherent human right. Yun yung kaibahan ng privilege. Privilege can be waived. Rights can never be waived. Maliwanag.
Yes, sir. Sana nanonood pa yung nagtanong at si Sir.
Yeah. Hindi, naman to di ba?
Yes, sir. And makikita naman siguro or naririnig naman siguro ng audience natin yung question and answer. Meron pa po bang mga question sa audience?
Yung maisingit ko lang kapatid, yung nanghihingi ng slide, di ba live naman to?
Yes, sir.
Because this is already for public interest. Yung slides, gawin mong accessible to the public, kapatid.
Okay, sir. Gagawa na lang ako ng drive para dyan since...
So, they just have to go to the page of the department. They can download the whole series na may mga technical problem. And then they can take the slides, no? Mga ganon.
Yes, sir.
At least they can visit the department, they can read it again if they want, and then they can download the slides. I'm giving it for free because the best thing in life is free.
May follow-up questions po yung initial na question, sir.
Sige.
Wait lang po natin.
Kalang ba nagtatanong?
Meron pang next, sir. Pero isunod na natin para...
Nakinig ba sa atin? Ilan na nakinig sa atin?
Ang dami, sir. Umabot tayo ng 100 plus kanina. Ngayon, 88. So, I think marami pa rin siya, sir. Knowing na bago pa lang yung page natin. So,
not bad.
Ito po, sir. Habang fina-follow up pa ni Sir Ramer yung question niya, I think let's move on to another question. Meron po bang iba pang paraan para isolve yung contradiction sa sinabi ni Kant ukol sa pagsabi na siya ay produkto ng panahon niya? Question po mula kay Sir Eugene Salazar.
Very nice question. No? I would like to quote Professor Martha Nussbaum. Sabi ni Professor Martha Nussbaum, Kant is our guide, but end of the day, the one who should guide us is ourselves. So, gabay mo si Kant. Nabuhay siya sa isang panahon. Ikaw naman ay nabubuhay ngayong 2020. Ikaw lang bahalang humawan ng mga mabubuti niyang aral na magagamit mo ngayon sa buhay mo. Gusto mong sumulat ng letter to the editor o mag-rally ka o unahin mo ang gobyerno sa FB o kung ano pa man, pwede naman yan eh. Pero given the dangers of the times, a mere FB page is enough para imbitahan ka na ng National Bureau of Investigation. Kahit yung ginagawa natin ito, following their stupid mindset, is already inciting to sedition. So, we have Kant, but you have to go beyond him. He is our guide. But end of the day, you have to guide yourself.
Yes, sir.
Kasi di ba sabi niya, we have to think for ourselves. And we have to think on the place of the other. That's the law on humanity. And then finally, we have to universalize that. So that's the thing there. Hmm.
Okay, sir.
Huwag mong sambahin si Kant, gawin mo siyang gabay. Yun lang. Yun lang ang punto doon.
May question, sir. Nag-i-insist. Wow.
Sige.
um,
Sige.
si Sir Mike. I think,
Ah,
scenario. Kung grabe na po ang kasamaan ni Mang Kanor, pwede na po ba siyang kalusin?
following Kant and Mariuism, yes. Dapat nga kalusin na eh. Inciting to sedition. Ganun talaga. Ano gagawin natin, di ba? Following the law of humanity, how could you stand and watch while your people are dying? Will you not do anything? Reason will tell you that I have to do something. Now, what is that something? It's up to you. Kasi nga goodwill eh. But the goodwill must lead to the general will. Hindi ka naman pwede mag-rebellion mag-isa. Eh di riot yun. So kung magre-rebellion ka, dapat may mga kasama ka pa rin. Kasi collective reason eh. You get the point? So, magre-rebellion ka, din nakita mo may mga nagre-rebellion, magkaroon na ng kolektibong rebellion. That's the thing there. Pero kung wala pang gumagalaw, we have to wait. Because if we will act by our own, babanata ka anarkista. Ganun.
Okay. Sir, nag-reply si Sir Eugene Salazar. Maraming salamat daw po sa response nyo. Siya po yung second question. So, meron pa rin po tayong question dito.
Mabuhay siya. No?
Tanong natin si Sir Mike kung...
Papa, I didn't tell you. I was touching the pool, then DJ said, don't touch the pool.
Eto, sir.
Never mind.
Ignore
him.
Meron tayong question, another question from John Kevin Mendoza. Sir, ano po ang masasabi nyo about how the administration suppresses their critics?
We already discussed that in the lecture, di ba? Nakita mo, the administration is using the law. They're weaponizing the law to silence dissent. That is the case. We have to use that agency or faculty that's inherent with us to counter the evil moves of the evil regime. What is that? Reason. So we fight this evil regime using reason. How? Right? A beautiful, rational critic. But of course, in every action, there is the corresponding reaction. You criticize the government. It was published by the Philippine Daily Inquirer or Rappler. And then after 3 days, you receive a summon from the NBI. The price that we have to pay. The price of freedom is eternal what? Vigilance. Diba? You use your reason. Be ready to end up dead. Be ready to end up in jail. And be ready to be exiled or to be ostracized. Pag nakipagdebate ka sa mga bobong DDS, mumurahin yung buong angkan mo. Takutin ka, papatay ka, sabihin kang bobo. Kung professor ka ng philosophy, bobo ka. Ay, ba ang tunay na bobo? Eh, kalaban mo mga zombie eh. You have to fight them using reason. That's the way it is.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think let's have Sir Chris comment. Comment sa talk mo or sa lecture mo and comment sa Facebook nga. Sabi niya, in reasoning within public sphere, I feel Kant will allow consensus from below from the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yun naman talaga kasi nga accessible ang reason sa lahat. And then isa pa.
Ayun sir, meron tayong bagong question. Fresh na fresh. Paano i-establish ang new normal after COVID using Kant as our guide?
The thing there is whether it's the pre-normal, the new normal, or the new normal, whatever it is, the rule is people themselves must think for themselves. Kasi the government will always try to delimit, trump, traduce your rights. What are you going to do to resist the encroachment of the government in delimiting your right? Remember, the source of the right is us, not them. We only gave them the right to govern us. So if they will now violate the law and violate our rights, it is our duty to overthrow the government. That's following the American principle, following the French principle, enunciated by Kant, encapsulated in the categorical imperative to think for ourselves.
Yes.
That's the thing. So whether it's the new normal, the super abnormal, whatever, the point there is, are you thinking for yourself? That is the first rule. If you're not thinking for yourself, shame on you, and you're good for nothing. That's the point. You're not a good citizen. You're not doing your job as a citizen, as a human being. You have to think for yourself.
Wait, parang... Sir? Ayun.
Ah,
Ayun. Sir, parang yung last part, parang medyo nawalan ka ng audio. Pwede po bang...
ano yung
ulitin?
last part? Anong bahagi? Anong slide yun?
Hindi sir, yung ano, itong sinasabi mo lang ngayon. Para mga 30 seconds.
Yung ang sinasabi ko lang ulit doon, whether it's the new normal, it's the new abnormal, or whatever period in history, di ba? 2020 all the way to 2030, 2040. The thing there is, we must think for ourselves. The government will always try to delimit our rights. And it's our duty to resist the encroachment of the government in delimiting, trumping, or reducing our rights. That's the point there. Struggle yan eh. It's always the individual versus the state. We have to go back again to David Thoreau, di ba? On civil disobedience. That's the rule.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
meron po tayo another question from Team Hebron.
Yeah.
The government is already committing treason dahil sa pagpatuloy na pagpasok ng mga inchik sa bansa. Ito ba ay grounds na pwedeng maging mitya ng revolusyon?
The question has already answered itself. The mere fact that an individual citizen whose right was violated is a ground to overthrow the government. Ito hindi na, buong bansa, buong rights na ng bansa ang sinasangsala, binababoy at nilalapastangan. So definitely, that is a super ground, not only to fight, but to overthrow this government, because the government is already committing treason to the Republic of the Philippines. And who will save the Republic? It is the people of the Republic against these traitors. That's the rule. Ngayon, kung ma-NBI ako dito for inciting to sedition, so be it. Dadaling ko na lang yung si Kant na books ko doon sa NBI siguro.
Yes, sir.
Sasama ko siguro. Po yan, nasa critical pure reason niya, no? Nasa categorical imperative. That's the thing there, eh. We have to put our money where our mouth is.
Yes, sir. Hanap pa tayo. Baka meron pang mga question tayong naiwanan. Meron pa po bang question sa mga audience? Marami pa po tayong viewers ngayong question and answer portion. So, I think if you have questions po, i-post or i-comment na lang po natin sa...
Narinig ba nila yung last yung JD, yung huling yung quotation ko kay Professor Korsgaard, napakinggan ba ng maayos?
Yes, sir. Ito po ba yun?
Okay. Kasi yun yung sinalin ko sa Pilipino.
the moment of revolution is a vindication of morality. Ayun ba yun,
Oh,
sir?
yung sinali
Ah,
ko sa Pilipino.
okay, sir. Okay, sir. Na natin siya. Yung mga nanood po ngayon, kung gusto pong gamitin yung video na to as reference, lagi lang po siya available sa page na to. Balikan nyo na lang po. And meron po tayong comment kay Ma'am Girly. Our very own Ma'am Girly.
Yan, si Ma'am Girlie. Bataan ni Kant yan. Aesthetics yung tanong niya. Aesthetics tatanong niya.
Wala naman siyang tanong, sir. Sabi niya, salute
Oh.
brother. Kant will always be supportive of the need to promote people's welfare. If there is a need
See?
to launch revolution, it must be grounded on reason that we are fighting for the universal right, and part of that is self-preservation.
Yes.
So,
Correct. Agree. Concur.
what a beautiful insight, Ma'am Girly. Thank you for that,
Pakisabi
ma'am.
kay Ma'am Girlie, that is inciting. Pakisabi kay Ma'am Girlie, that is inciting to sedition based on the stupid mind of the NBI.
Well, sure.
Ganda ng pagkasabi niya eh, pero inciting to sedition pa rin yan.
Sa
Yan.
bagay.
Kasi pag nag-question ka, sedition na yan. Ganun ka bobo eh.
Okay. So, meron pa po bang questions? Pwede po tayong mag-comment pa. Siguro until 5, extend natin, sir, 5:10, 5:15.
Wala problema. Sige. Para yung mga hindi makahabol kung mahabol pa. Para marami tayo kasuhan sa NBI. Kung ano, para isang ano na lang.
Sama-sama na lang.
Collective summon. Lahat na nanood, imbitado kayo. Diyan kayo mag-lecture sa Paura. Sa Padre Paura kayo mag-lecture.
Comment ulit ni Ma'am Girly. No one has the right to violate us in using the imaginative. It is a mark of human freedom.
Correct. That's Professor Jane Keller. Sabihin mo kay Ma'am Girly, that's Professor Jane Keller.
Okay, sir. Okay.
We're reading the same book. Ay, paki-shout out kay Dr. Sosimo Lia ng UP Department of Philosophy. Mabuhay, Doc. Nagturo sa amin mahalin si Kant. Kaya kami maiimbita ng NBI dahil sa kanya. Yun yan.
Okay. So, I think we are at our last question, because we have a question here from, oh wait, okay, sige, tapusin na lang natin yung question hanggang sa question ni Sir Chris. Pero bago yun, meron akong question, sir, from Learn Cartagena. Good afternoon, sir. I would like to ask that is the law always right?
Is the law always right? Yung ba ang tanong?
Yes, sir.
It depends. What kind of law are you talking about? Because if you will ask me, for example, the train law, that's a stupid law. Now, if you will ask me about the four-piece law, it's a beautiful law. So it depends on what law is he referring to. Diba? So train law, to me, that is anti-human. Four-piece, pangtawid pamilya law. Remember? Okay, that's a good law. Kasi social legislation yan eh. Pero yung isa, what? Ini-delimit mo yung rights ng lahat. At ang binibigyan mo ng pabor ay yung gitnang uri at saka yung mga naghaharing uri. Example, look at the capital gains tax, yung corporate tax. My goodness. Halip na taasan, binabaan palalo. Samantalang tayo ng mga ay gutom na prof. Ang liit na ng sahod ng withholding tax. O paano, how could the law be a good law? That's a stupid law. Even this stupid bayagan and wipak as one law is a stupid law. Diba? Anong maganda dyan sa law na yan? Ang daming tao mo hanggang ngayon, wala pa ng 5,000 o 8,000 pesos. Tapos, yung mga iba, 4 sa pamilya niya nakatanggap ng 4,000 times 4. Magkano yun? Yung ibang mga pamilya, hindi naman nakakatanggap ng buda. So, that's a stupid law. The implementation is rubbish.
Yes, sir. I think from this instances na na-experience natin ngayon, lahat tayo affected. So,
Correct.
mas ano siya, sir, mas yung relevance niya talagang nag-e-echo talaga siya ngayon eh. It is not merely a talk in the, let's say, seminars or lecture series, but we can feel it right now, what you are conveying, since that we all
Very good.
experience
At tingin ko rin,
Sir.
yeah. Pati JD, tingin ko napaka-relevant at napaka-timely din ng lecture na to, considering nga na sa sinabi mo, umiiral na panahon. At tama rin na dapat nga, ako nga rin yung mauna, parang I will set the pace and then followed by these colleagues. Now, of course, end of the day, it all deals with the question of human dignity in reference to this COVID. And then the government, instead of alleviating the poverty and the suffering by being experienced by the people, siya pang nagbabawas lalo ng karapatan ng mga tao. So dito mo makikita, napaka-relevant ni Papa Kant na sinilang siya ng 17th, 18th century. We're now already in the 21st century, but his idea of the human dignity, of human rights and autonomy, and to think for ourselves is so relevant. Ngayon, higit kailanman, makabuluhan niya yung pag-iisip para sa iyong sarili, sa iyong ganang sarili, hindi ka namamanginoon o nanganganino kanino man. Beyond the script, creating your own script, that's necessary. Ano ba?
Okay. Sir, I think we're down to our last question from Sir Chris.
Okay.
Since wala na rin nag-generate ng question. And overtime na tayo ng 10 minutes. Do you see any resemblance between China government today and totalitarian governments in the past?
At ano yung tanong ni Sir Chris?
Ito sir. Do you see any resemblance between China government today and totalitarian governments in the past?
Definitely, again, that question is already, it also answered itself. Definitely, the world must sue China. Remember, this crisis, this pandemic, this virus or virus started with them. And what those son of a bitches did, they hide the data from us. They didn't tell everything to us. It's not only China who is at fault here. Even this stupid who is also at fault. So to me, it should be destroyed. Wala naman siya. China is, the world must sue China. Okay? Why? Pinabayaan nila yung mamamayan nila. Kumalat yung virus sa buong mundo. Ang daming napinsalang tao. So based on international law, you have to pay what? Compensation, and the world must demand for damages. Diba? Pwede rin sabihin, whether it's a biological weapon or accidentally jump from the lab or whatever, you have the right, you have the duty to tell the world everything, all the data at your disposal so that we can, what? Come up with the program on how to contain this virus. You will tell us everything after the outbreak has begun. It's too late, the hero already. And up to today, they're washing their hands as if they're saying it's an accident. And some idiots there are saying, the Americans brought it there. Ayan, totoo, maliwanag naman, this is a corona Wuhan virus. And then this WHO will say, it's a COVID-19. COVID-19, what? It's not racist na sabihin mong Wuhan virus. Yung bang German measles, did the German say, it's racism? Spanish flu, did the Spanish say, it's racism? Paborito ko yung Spanish bread. Stupid yan. Hindi tayo racist. Ang ano lang dito, aminin mo yung totoo kung saan talaga nagmula yan. Parang archaeology, may nahukay na buto doon sa butuan. Anong sasabihin ko, di dapat buto yon. Pwede ko bang sabihin na Batangas, Bulalo yan? Eh, doon nga nakuha yan. I mean, you get the point? Ang sinasabi lang natin yung totoo. Sabihin nila racism. Racism ilang milyon na ngayon ang apektado diyan sa virus na nagmula sa bayan nyo. And also, we have to go back. Remember during the period of SARS, they didn't tell everything also. Now this is part 2 of kaya nga SARS din yan, di ba? SARS part 2. Hindi na naman sila nagsabi ng buong katotohanan. So dapat ang mundo, singilin sila. Ngayon, ayaw nila magbayad, fine. We can condemn them to the bar of international public opinion. Yun lang, we shame them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Chris, sa tanong. I love that.
Yes, sir. And tingin mo ba, sir, coincidence yung last question natin? Kasi sa Sir Chris yung nagtanong at siya yung susunod na speaker. So, I
Hindi.
think...
Yun lang, yan yung teaser niya sa atin. Yan.
Teaser, yes, sir.
Patikim ba? Patikim.
Patikim. So, before we conclude this session this afternoon for our online lecture, I would just like to invite everyone again to our evening session later on after your dinner, which will start 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. We will be having our Sir Christopher Bolaños.
Last supper ba yan?
Hopefully naman, sir, hindi.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Sir Chris will be having lessons from Plato's Cave in the time of COVID-19. So, pasimula pa lang yung Kant's Doctrine of Right ni Sir Mario. So, marami pa po tayong mga nakahaing online lectures para sa inyo. And don't forget, of course, to subscribe. Joke lang. To like and share. Please invite other of your friends, classmates to watch and reflect with us in this events that we are experiencing right now. So, gusto ko po ulit pasalamatan lahat ng all of those who made this possible. Of course, syempre wala namang magsasalita kung walang manonood. So, thank you po sa lahat ng viewers natin. And please share this page and shout out to the Department of Humanities and Philosophy who started or who initiated this online lecture. And I think we'll be seeing you guys later on. So, Sir Mario, thank you pala sa pagiging
Last word
pilot.
magpapasalamat din ako sa lahat ng mga tumulong sa iyo, kay chairman, kay dean, lahat ng mga nakinig and all that. Maraming salamat po. Tuloy ang laban, Buhay po kayo. Pag-asa.
Okay. Salamat po sa lahat ng nag-support sa lecture na to. And sa mga gusto po ng digital certificates, magsasend po tayo via email. Yung link po sa Google Forms ay nasa page lang po. So, just check it and fill out the necessary details para po maging tama yung information na i-send namin sa mga certificates nyo. So, that's it. Sana mamaya pong 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Siguro naman gising pa rin tayo nun. Kaya, let's try or let's watch or let's have Sir Chris later on as our lecture for this online lecture series. Okay. So, sir, maraming salamat, Sir Mario.
Mabuhay po. Yabag to the max.
Okay. Okay, so that concludes our afternoon session, and thank you to everyone who participated. Okay, so I will be ending the live video now. Thank you guys.
Mabuhay, mabuhay.